Okay, now that we've talked about graphing ellipses, we're going to continue on with talking about section 2 with ellipses. This time we're going to look at how to write the equation of ellipses. So when you're writing the equation of an ellipse, you need 4 things. So the 4 things that you will need to find every single time is the center. You'll need to figure out your A and your B, and you'll need to decide if the graph is going to be horizontal or vertical. So I would start out every single time writing down those 4 things. Okay, those are the 4 things you must have, and those are the only 4 things you need. You'll notice that I don't have C on here, something that you have to have. You could have it, so you'll see in some problems where you will be given enough information to find your C. And that's fine. You don't have to have it to write the equation, but it may help you find one of these other pieces, specifically like your A or your B. But again, these are the 4 things that you must have, and these are the only 4 things that you have to write your equation. All right, so we're going to read through the question and try and figure out these things. All right, so we want to write the equation of an ellipse that has its center at the origin. So right off the bat, I see center at the origin. Origin is 0, 0, so center is 0, 0. Okay, a vertical major axis. So this one's vertical. And the major axis is 14 units long. So thinking back to how we did our graphing, we found our center, and then we figured out what our A and our B were. The A is what we went either to the left and right or up and down, depending on whether the A was underneath the X's or the Y's. But that always told us the major axes, because the A was always the bigger one. The other thing to remember is that we went A to the left, so if it was horizontal, we went A to the left and to the right. And in this case, it's vertical, so that means we're going to go A units up and A units down. So for the whole major axis to have a length of 14 units, that would mean we will have had to have gone up 7 and down 7. So our A is going to be 7. All right, and then the last bit we're told is it has a minor axis of length 10 units. So if it's up and down, that means the minor axis is going to the left and to the right, and that's going to tell us our B. And so to have a total length of 10 units, that's going to have to be 5 to the left and 5 to the right. So our B is 5. All right, now for the actual writing of the equation. So it's always going to be x minus h squared and y minus k squared. And your h and your k is your center. So x minus 0 squared, which we can just write as x squared. And y minus 0 squared, which we can just write as y squared. Okay, it's an ellipse, so it's going to be a plus sign in front. It's going to equal 1. And then our denominators are going to be a squared and b squared. And we just have to figure out where the a and where the b is going to go. Since it's vertical, the a is going to go under the y. So a squared would be 7 squared. 49 goes down here. B squared is 25. That's going to go there. And that's your equation. Excuse me. Again, we need to find the center, A, B, and determine whether it's horizontal or vertical. Alright, so let's go ahead and start reading and see what we have. We're writing the equation of an ellipse that has its center at the origin. So again, our center is at 0, 0. Has a focus at 1, 0. So the focus is going to tell you your C. As I mentioned, we don't necessarily need C, but if they give us information that will help us find C, then that can generally help us find either our A or our B, depending on which one we need to try and find. Okay, so remembering from when we were graphing, the focus was always C units away from the center. So if our center is at 0, 0, and we have one of our focal points at 1, 0, that's 1 unit to the right. So C is going to be 1. That also tells us which direction our major axis goes, because our focal points are on the major axes. So if my focus is 1 unit to the right of the center, that means that it's got to be horizontal. All right, then I have, it also says 3 is half the length of the minor axes. So being the length of the minor axis is going to tell me my B. And since 3 is half the length, that's going to be from the center just to one of the points, which is going to be my B. So B equals 3. All right, now that's all the information I was given, but I still need to figure out what the A is. And that's where, even though I didn't need my C to write the equation, it's going to help me find my A. Because with ellipses, we know that A squared minus B squared gives us our C squared. So A squared minus 3 squared, which is 9, has to equal 1 squared, which is 1. So A squared equals 10, which means A is the square root of 10. And so let's go ahead and write our equation again. Again, it's going to start with x minus h squared and y minus k squared. So that's x minus 0 squared, or just x squared, y minus 0 squared, or just y squared. It's going to have a plus sign in between. It's going to equal 1. And then we just need to put the numbers on our a squared and b squared on the bottom. This time it's horizontal, so our a squared is going to go under the x. And a is square root of 10, so a squared is 10. B is 3, so b squared is 9. And there is our equation. Alright, if you want to try and give this one a shot on your own, go ahead. Otherwise, if you want to work through it with me again, that's fine. So we're finding the center, A, B, and whether it's horizontal or vertical. Every time, that's what we have to find. Alright, so this one doesn't give us quite as much information. I do see something right off the bat. B equals 3. So I'm going to start with that because that's easy. It tells me exactly what that is. I don't even have to think about it. Alright, so we'll write the equation of ellipse with foci at -2, 4 and 8, 4. So the only other information they give us is B, and they tell us B equals 3. So there has to be a lot of information that we can get from the foci. One thing to keep in mind about the foci is that can always help you find your C value. Okay, but in order to do that, you have to know what the center is, because the foci is C units from the center. But right now I don't know my center. However, the last problem I was just giving one of the focal points. This time I'm given both of them. And I know that my 2 focal points are C units in either direction from my center, which means that my center has to be right in the middle of those focal points. So I'm going to go ahead and use my midpoint formula. And it's up to you if you actually want to put the 4 plus 4 over 2 into the midpoint formula, because we know it's going to be 4. What's between 2, 4, and 4? 4. Alright, but -2 plus 8 is 6 over 2 is 3, so my center is at 3, 4. Alright, I can also then determine, now that I know my center, from the center to one of the focal points, and it doesn't matter which one you choose because you'll figure out that either way you're 5 units away. To get from 3, 4 to 8, 4, you have to go 5 units to the right. So C is equal to 5. Also, you'll notice I said we went 5 units to the right, which means since the focal points have to be on the major axes, that it's horizontal. Now, once again, I have my b and a c, so I can use that to find the a. A squared minus 9 equals 25. Add 9 to both sides. A squared equals 34. So a equals the square root of 34. Alright, my equation is going to be x minus 3 squared and y minus 4 squared. It's going to equal 1, have a plus sign in between the two. It's horizontal, which means my a goes under the x because x is horizontal. And a squared, or a is square root of 34, so a squared, which is just going to be 34. Underneath my y is then going to be my b squared. B is 3, so b squared is 9. And there is your equation. Alright, last one for today. Again, let's write down what we need to find. Center, A, B, and whether it's horizontal or vertical. Alright, so center at -4, 5. Vertex at -4, 1. So that tells me the vertex will help you find your A. If you remember from the graphing, the vertex, or the vertices of an ellipse, every ellipse only has 2 vertices. It's only the points that are on the major axes. So the vertex will always tell you your A. So looking at my center to my vertex, to get from my center to my vertex, so -4, 5 to -4, -1, I'm going to have to go down 6 units. So my A is going to be 6. Also, since I went down to get to my major axes, or to get to one of my vertices, which is on the major axes, that means my graph is vertical. Okay, so then the last piece of information I'm given is that C over A equals 1 over 3. Okay, now I just want to point out that doesn't mean that C equals 1 and A equals 3. It means that the ratio of the C to the A simplifies down to 1 over 3. Now we know that A equals 6, so C over 6 has to equal 1/3, which then if we cross multiply, 3C equals 6, C equals 2. And so now we can say 36, which is my A squared, minus B squared equals my C squared, which is 4. So I'm going to subtract 36, which gives me -32. So B squared is equal to +32, and B equals the square root of 32. So now I can write my equation, x minus -4, so x plus 4. And then y minus 5 squared. Both are going to be over something, my a squared and my b squared. They're going to equal 1. Now I just have to stick my a squared and my b squared in. It's a vertical, which means my a squared is going to go under my y's. And that's 6 squared, which is 36. And then my b squared then has to go under my x's, which is b is square root of 32. So b squared is just 32. And there is your equation. So again, we've got the 4 things and we have to find those 4 things every single time.